We live in a world where moving fast is celebrated, where keeping busy is worn like a badge of honor. People love to say, "I'm grinding, I'm hustling, I'm booked and busy." But here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Busy doesn't mean productive. Busy doesn't mean fulfilled. Busy doesn't even mean you know where you're going. There's this illusion, this false glow that comes with motion. The calendar's full, your phone is ringing, your schedule's packed from morning till midnight. And on the outside you look like you're winning, but inside you're running. Running so hard, so fast, you haven't stopped to ask, where am I even going? See, motion can trick the mind. It feels like progress, like success, but not all movement is meaningful. You can be sprinting in circles. You can be climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. And one day, you get to the top and realize you don't even like the view. I've seen people on fire for a future they didn't even choose, burning themselves out, chasing a version of success that was handed to them, not one they defined. And when they finally slow down, when the applause fades and the spotlight shifts, they look around and realize they don't recognize the life they built. That's the danger of the illusion. It feels good to be moving, but if you don't know your why, your where, your what for you're not progressing, you're just busy, just loud, just lost in the noise. Don't let the world convince you that a packed schedule means a full life. Don't confuse busyness with destiny, because being everywhere at once might mean you're nowhere at all. There was a time in my life, not too long ago, when everything looked right from the outside. The cameras were flashing, the calls were constant, the contracts were coming in faster than I could sign them. People would stop me on the street and say, "Man, you're living the dream," but inside, I felt like a stranger in my own story. Now I'm not saying I wasn't grateful. I was. I am, but gratitude can't hide disconnection. I was moving so fast, I never had time to check in with myself. I had a name. I had a brand, I had money, but I didn't have clarity. I remember being in this hotel room, cold air, conditioning humming in the background, white sheets, city lights flickering just beyond the window. I had just wrapped a major project, press was buzzing, people were congratulating me, but I couldn't feel it. It was like I was watching someone else's life on a screen. And that night, I asked myself something I hadn't asked in years. Why am I doing all this? I didn't have an answer. That question hit me like a freight train. Because up until then, I had been chasing goals I didn't take time to question. I was running on momentum, on expectation, on habit, on fear of stopping. But when I finally did stop, when the room got quiet, I realized I was lost. Not in the dramatic, fall apart kind of way. No, this was more subtle, more dangerous. I was successful and drifting, and what's wild is, people around me thought I was at my peak. They saw the headlines, the awards, the applause. But I knew something they didn't. I had no map. I had speed, but no direction. I had motion, but no meaning. That's the moment it hit me. You can be flying first class and still have no idea where you're going. You can check every box and still be disconnected from your purpose. And if you don't check in with your soul, if you don't slow down and ask the hard questions, success can take you somewhere your spirit can't survive. This world is loud, real loud. Everybody's talking, posting, pushing, performing. There's a pressure to always be on, to answer every message, respond to every demand, show up to every opportunity like it's the one that'll change everything. It gets to a point where silence feels like failure. Like if you're not constantly doing, then maybe you're falling behind. But let me tell you something I've learned: noise is not the same as purpose. Noise is addictive. It makes you feel needed, important, relevant. Purpose, that's quieter. Purpose doesn't always yell. Sometimes it whispers, and if your life is too loud, you might miss it completely. You can fill every hour with noise, meetings, emails, social media, deals, calls, appearances, and still go to bed empty. You ever been there? You lay your head down and realize you've been working all day, but didn't get one step closer to who you were created to be. It's like chopping wood for someone else's fire. See, busyness has become a form of hiding. We fill the space so we don't have to face ourselves. We stay distracted because clarity is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront the gap between what you're doing and what you should be doing. And that's scary, because once you know better, now you've got to do better. And sometimes the most dangerous place to be is surrounded by applause when you're performing a life that's not yours. You get caught in the rhythm of approval, and that rhythm becomes your identity. But that's not purpose, that's noise, and the longer you let the world define your tempo, the harder it gets to hear your own song. Purpose is rooted. Purpose is still. It doesn't need constant validation. It doesn't compete for attention, and it sure doesn't beg to be busy just to feel worthy. It's not about being everywhere, it's about being exactly where you're meant to be, doing what only you can do. You can either chase the noise, or you can move with purpose, but you can't do both. At some point, you've got to put the world on pause and ask yourself, what am I really chasing? Not what the world told you to want, not what your family expected, not what social media claps for you. What do you want? What were you built for? Because if you don't answer that, life will answer it for you with noise, with pressure, with everybody else's agenda. I had to learn how to be still. I had to get quiet long enough to hear the difference between my ego and my assignment. That's the thing when you've been busy for so long, when your identity has been tied to activity, stopping feels like drowning. But stopping is the only way you find your compass again, and a compass doesn't give you a to-do list. It gives you a direction, a deep, unshakable north. That doesn't mean every step is clear. It just means you're no longer wandering. You're no longer just reacting to what comes next. You're choosing, you're aligning, you're moving from a place of conviction, not confusion. Some of us are out here sprinting for success with a broken compass, guided by fear, by trauma, by comparison. And when that's your compass, no matter what you achieve, you'll still feel lost. Because deep down, something in you knows, this ain't it. But when you rediscover the real compass, when you connect with that voice that's buried under all the busyness, it's like your spirit exhales for the first time in years. You realize it was never about doing more. It was about doing right, not just doing what you're good at, but doing what you're called to. You start saying no without guilt. You start walking away from rooms that don't match your calling. You stop chasing moments, and you start building something that matters. Because now, you're not just moving, you're moving with direction, with purpose, with peace. There comes a point in your life when hustle isn't enough. When the grind, the shine, the clout, all of it starts to feel small, not wrong, not useless, just incomplete. You look around and realize you've been climbing, you've been building, you've been moving, but now you want something deeper. You want something that lasts. Hustle is about survival. Legacy is about significance. When I was younger, hustle made sense. You come from struggle, you come from lack. You learn real quick that if you want something, you better go get it. So you work, you push, you prove, you make noise so the world can hear you, and sometimes that's necessary. That's the beginning, but the question shifts over time. It goes from how do I win to what am I leaving behind, because winning means nothing if nobody else grows from it. Legacy is not about your name in lights, it's about how many lives your light touched. You want to know the difference between hustle and legacy. Hustle adds hours to your life. Legacy adds meaning to your years. And listen, there's nothing wrong with ambition. Go ahead, dream big, build the business, book the role, close the deal, but do it from a place of alignment, not addiction. Don't hustle just because you're afraid of being still. Don't move just because silence feels like failure. Move because you found something worth moving toward. Legacy doesn't scream. It doesn't beg for followers. Legacy is quiet, consistent, rooted in love, in service, in vision. It's so now I ask you, what are you really chasing? Because busy means nothing if you're lost. Don't spend your whole life moving fast just to end up somewhere you never meant to be. Don't let the noise drown out the voice that's been trying to guide you all along. That voice, that's your compass. That's your calling. That's the truth that doesn't need applause to matter. It's time to stop measuring your worth by how full your calendar is. Start measuring it by how full your spirit feels when you wake up in the morning. Don't just grind a line. Don't just chase build. Build something real, something rooted, something that'll outlast you. You were not put here just to be busy. You were put here to be bold, brilliant, purposeful. And when you finally move from that place, when you stop running and start returning to who you really are, everything changes. Let the world chase busy. You walk in purpose. And when you do that, you're never lost again.